And here's my view. I don't think anybody that's successful in any arena, sports or otherwise, ever gets there on their own. Everybody has a guide. And we invested in you at that time, which at the time meant writing a check out of my pocket because our business wasn't close to generating money that would pay for it. But we just wanted to get there quicker. If you're a broker watching this, think, what is it you want in your next 5 years of your journey? What lifestyle financially? And a lot of brokers, they're making money from deals and stuff, but it's not a business. It's like going from one problem, one transaction.
This is the Profitable Broker. Welcome to the Profitable Broker, where each episode we have people who are really moving the needle in the real estate brokerage business. And today, I'm so excited to be able to invite as a guest Larry Schottenstein. Larry is the president of RE/MAX Realty. He's a program coach here at Inner Circle Broker Coaching. He does both one-on-one coaching with some of our big brokers and also runs some of our group coaching programs, does workshops for us, both on the web and in person. And so I'm just so excited to have you here, Larry, because you've got so much to share. So welcome to the Profitable Broker.
Pleasure to be here. I've been listening. Now I get to do some needle moving with you here, one-on-one. So
you get to sit
I love to move needles.
You get to sit in the hot seat. When we the way I love to talk about or start a podcast, Larry, is just ask about your journey. How did you get into real estate? Like, you've had such a storied career. Where did it all begin?
I'll make it short but simple. When I was 16, in my world, my grandfather, who owned a bunch of slum property, had you collect rent. So started driving around collecting rent and survived that for some reason, got into a family real estate development business, decided that a family environment wasn't the best, and really just pivoted to residential real estate because it seemed to be the most likely easy pivot for me. And been doing that for 25, 30 years, I guess. Independent broker for a long time, basically a glorified team. Then decided I wanted to build a business and not be transaction oriented, and joined into the RE/MAX world and been trying to really create a business since then. And the pivot has worked out. So I getting to that lifestyle that I have envisioned for myself years ago.
Well, that's a great segue, because usually what I ask next is, what got you into leadership? How did your journey get you into broker ownership?
It was all about 2-3 years in a row. My partner Chris and I were doing great. We were on the upswing with money. Honestly, I was working part-time, if I was honest, because we were good with systems. But I realized we didn't have a business, and both of us felt we had more to offer to the world and had more potential. And for us, it was how do we focus away from doing our own deals to having a business that could generate money, where we could add value to other people's lives, besides just going from one deal to the next. So we jumped on that train, and it's working out for us.
That's awesome. So if I remember correctly, Larry, that led to the founding of Realty Real Estate. And when we met, how many agents did you have when we met? And I looked it up. That was back in November of 2016.
It was interesting because I had to buy a partner out. We had a third partner who did not want to go on this journey. Write a nice little check to RE/MAX. Been doing it less than a year. I think we had less than 10 agents, maybe 6 or 7 when I met you. And I really credit this with Chris and I both having the realization of, get out of our own way. We don't know everything that we're doing, and find a guide as quickly as possible. And we invested in you at that time, which at the time meant writing a check out of my pocket because our business wasn't close to generating money that would pay for it. But we just wanted to get there quicker. And I've just learned, I had enough foresight, and I've learned on my own. And here's my view. I don't think anybody that's successful in any arena, sports or otherwise, ever gets there on their own. Everybody has a guide, and you're going to invest in time, money, energy, or effort. And I thought, you know what? why not work with someone that has a view that I don't have, has done it before, and honestly could just tell me this is how it's done, or you could do it that way, or this is how it works, and hold my feet to the fire on things. And honestly, I credit that immensely to what we've been able to accomplish.
Well, it's interesting because if I look at our journey, Larry, we've seen, first of all, you've grown the business tremendously. You and Chris, you're in several cities in Ohio, and tipping around 150 agents, I think, somewhere around there.
Yep.
And I think about it, and not just that. I mean, we've been through the highs of COVID, the lows of 2022, 2023, and you guys have done spectacular through the whole process. Tell me what's the biggest, what did you learn from that process of growth?
What did I learn from the process of growth? It was interesting when the market was really good. When the market changed, that was really eye opening. Like, it's easy to make money when there's a giant uplift, and all of a sudden things changed, and it unmasked the things that I thought we were super clever with. And then I had to be extremely in line with what your coaching was telling us of. These are the margins that you have to have. Otherwise, you're going to be writing checks. And everything you do, and I just love this phrase, we don't have expenses, we have investments. In every check we write, every investment / expense we make better drive revenue. And I became relentless about aiming for that, what I call low market margin that we needed to have.
Mhm.
And anything that we needed to do to get there, that's what we were going to do. And we made that work.
Yeah, that's and awesomely. You have such a unique way. I mean, you built the company, you and Chris, by both organically recruiting experienced, productive people, frankly, mostly organically, and then some mergers and acquisitions. But if you were going to talk to brokers, Larry, I mean, one of the things they all struggle with is recruiting experienced, productive people. What do you do differently that makes you guys so successful?
I became, it was interesting when we decided to go into the brokerage world, recruiting obviously was a key. It was eye opening. Like, I thought all the broker experience, agent, deal transaction, none of it had me the least prepared for how to recruit. It is a totally new business. It's like selling Honda motorcycles, and all of a sudden you're going to go sell trucks. You know, it it's a vehicle, but boy, it just doesn't operate, move, and it's just so totally different. Um, Honestly, learning that on your own is a rough ride. We followed your process, and we were relentless about having processes, systems, scalable and repeatable, that we could just keep adding onto. And I became relentless about just learning the hard way and being okay with making mistakes. And I remember every time we make phone calls, my partner and I were in the same space, and I go, "What did that sound like? How'd you hear that? What did I, you are not going to do it without some failure and willing to do it." But boy, it's not just pick up the phone and make call kind of business.
Yeah.
Having it down about what's that like, and will make it much easier. So
Yeah, the whole system. It's interesting because I think it's one of the most common topics, but one of the least understood, and that's why there's so little success around. And I think the frustration for brokers, Larry, is they read something or they hear something and they really try to work hard at it, but it's not successful for them. And obviously, you guys were able to take that system and become successful. Tell me this then: when did you decide to become a coach? I mean, you started with five. You've grown a huge company. You're hitting the ball. At what point did you think, "Hey, I'd like to teach others to do this"?
yeah, I mean, I've always been coaching other agents, so the idea of coaching is something I'm used to. The idea of coaching other businesses really came from my interactions with you, and
Sure.
opened my eyes about it. And the thing I like best about it, it's like when you really connect with an agent, and when you really connect even with a client buying and selling a home, when I really connect with our coaching client, I know more about them than pretty much anybody in the world about what's really happening in their business life and all the way around. What is it they envision for themselves? What's their ultimate goal? What are the things they enjoy? What are the things that are stressful? I really love having that deep interpersonal connection to someone, um, it makes it really personal to me. Like, oh man, I just really want to see this happen for this person because of that connection that we're making. And honestly, it just add clarity and vision to it. Uh, I didn't have it when I started. You added that to things to me about what a profit margin really looks like, what we should be aiming for, what are key indicators, how do you know if you're doing it right or wrong? And it's really been joyful to be part of that experience with people.
I love one of the things I love, Larry, is when we get on workshops and people, what you talked about. Oh, I'm going to change the sentence for a minute. You talked about having an impact on people. And I know how much of an impact you have because when we get on workshops and our members are talking about the impact that you've had, not just on their businesses, but obviously when their businesses are successful and they're having success, you're impacting them personally as well. So just a shout out to you and the work you do with their members.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
You know what really came to realization, because what my interactions with you in association and being able to do this is I have a view of things that I never thought possible. Behind the scenes, what it really looks like, what happens in Canada, United States, small markets, big markets. And if you're a broker watching this, an owner, the most common thing I see, and I'd love you to jump in on this too, now that I'm interviewing you. So, is so many of us got in here because we're really good at real estate, have a strong personality, really good at connecting, building a team, having a this, da, da, da. But we're all entrepreneurial, and we almost everybody to a T, with few exceptions, really understand strong business concepts, knowing how to analyze and look at your financial statement, strategic business decisions. Most people don't really have a grasp on how to make a decision that's strategic. Like, everybody's just trying to do things, but without real sight about what is it you're trying, what problem are you trying to resolve, and why are we doing it that way?
Yeah, it's interesting because you said you're interviewing me. My next question was what most amazed you about working with brokers that you got to learn? And it sounds to me like it may have been, hey, it's across the board that people don't have a system and they don't have the knowledge, right? And I look at it like this, Larry. We as brokers, we make a huge investment. I mean, you're not going to open much of an office today for $500,000. Your fixed costs are going to be upwards of 50, 100,000, 150,000 a month, depending on how big the company is, and in some cases much more in our program. And with all of that investment in fixed overhead, there's no school that we can go to that says, "Hey, this is how to run a real estate brokerage," right? And as the margins compress and it becomes more and more competitive, this becomes a bigger and bigger problem for people.
Yeah,
And I call it the secret sauce. They don't have this. They've gone to open a restaurant, but they don't have the secret sauce in terms of how to sell products.
yeah. And unlike restaurants, if you're in a franchise model or a big, you know, brand model, they can't really tell you about some of this stuff because it's just so different from place to place, and or they don't expose themselves to it. And then if you're independent, you're really on your own about
Yeah.
what those models look like. So
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's one of the things that I'm so proud of is that we can bring that level of clarity because, like you, well, you were smarter than me. When I started in brokerage, I did it myself for 3 or 4 years, and really cost me a lot of money. Almost went bankrupt, and because I had to experiment, right? No, there was no secret sauce, and that's what really motivated me to create the secret sauce and say, hey,
that's
but yeah, it's interesting. Let me ask this: what's the biggest opportunity that you see for real estate brokers right now, looking forward over the next 2 or 3 years?
strong brokers who have a process, have their act together, are efficient and profitable. I think they have a real opportunity for growth through mergers, acquisitions, as other brokerages are either aging out or view the competitive models that we're in and the changes in the landscape as one more thing to overcome. Oh, I had to overcome the internet. Oh, I had to overcome 2008. Now I got to overcome consolidation. And, it just, it's like, oh my God. And we're in a down market for, I don't know, 3 years now. I think it'll be another couple of years before we start seeing a lift. And the idea is you can't wait for the market to lift you. You got to lift yourself up by your own pants. So,
You know what, Larry? It's interesting because one of the things that where we have an opportunity, we look at more financial statements than anybody in the industry, full stop,
yes.
right? Because obviously in our coaching program, one of the tenets, one of the things we do every month with every client is we look at financial statements, right? And so we get to see what's possible in terms of profitability. And I think one of the myths of real estate brokerage you just sort of threw out, you just said, hey, that's not true. And we've been talking about this for some time, is that the opportunity is we can make more money than ever, with through some of the strategies that you talked about, through mergers and acquisitions and some of the other things that you talked about. The opportunity for a broker to profit and create a great business, create a scalable business, great lifestyles the next few years is better than ever.
Yes, for sure. I've been relentless about focusing on the profit margin that I need and deserve.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have a new client of ours I'm working with, and I think it's my second or third meeting. And he goes, what kind of profit margin should I be expecting? And he goes, I was talking to this, I can't remember who, Coldwell Banker sales guy trying to sell, Coldwell Banker franchises. He said 5% would be good. And I go, I don't know what world you live in that you think making 5% is worth the effort. I go, yeah, honestly, for us, 15 in a down market, maybe 10, because otherwise you're writing checks when things go wrong. And he was like, and I go, now there's no magic fairy dust to get there. You can't just flick a switch. It's got to be intentional. And I go, let's look at your commissions. You're leaving money on the table with this, and it doesn't happen magically. It's back to those processes, those core competencies that we talk about and focus on.
It's interesting, Larry. It's so important. So many people, and I think we were taught this for years and years as real estate brokers, that you can recruit your way to profitability. And the reality is, if you don't have a model, is what you just said. If you don't have a model, all the recruiting in the world is going to help your profitability. You're just going to have more money losing units. Let me ask this question. I'm going to change gears for a sec. Now you have quite a storied life outside of real estate. Tell us what you like to do. First of all, tell us about whitewater rafting guiding. I can't leave that behind. You are a whitewater rafting guide. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, right after college, I hooked up with a friend of my older sister, and he was a ex-Vietnam Marine and kind of fearless, and we just started learning how to go whitewater rafting, bought a boat, and had a bunch of friends out of college. I never did it as a paid guide for a company. We had our own stuff and literally go out there and go rafting. Gosh, mostly West Virginia, New River, multiple different states. But yeah, that was a kind of an outdoors kind of person. And the drive got to be long, and then bought a sailboat and started sailing at Lake Erie, then did some boat deliveries out along the coast, and recently took a trip to Croatia sailing for a week. So yeah, like the outdoors.
If anyone is listening to the podcast and you have an opportunity to carry Amy and Larry's luggage on their next vacation, if you could just be their porter, I would highly recommend that you take that job on.
Well, I have bad news for you. Our last trip, we only took one carry-on and a small bag. So for once in my life, I learned to pack light. I was like, I'm an overpacker. We said we're not going to have to check any bags. So.
You guys have the best trips of anybody I know. One of the beautiful things about Facebook, Larry, is we get to go along with you, right? Wow, that's fantastic. Your trip planning and execution is flawless.
But you know what? Here's the best part. It's because it was part of the lifestyle that I envisioned. Think about when we talk to our clients. What's your vision? What do you want to do? I want to get a cottage. I want to go away. What is it you want? And I knew from the beginning what I wanted was the freedom to do things. you don't have the freedom to do things if you're not running a business a profitable, and particularly running without you having to be there to touch everything every minute of every day.
Yeah,
And so from the
absolutely.
beginning, we designed a business that ultimately, when I could grow it, it didn't occupy my daily existence. I can't tell you how many brokers I've talked to that are consumed by things. And in some respects, they designed it that way, or it ended up, or lack of design. Okay. I think I get more satisfaction in having other people that work with me that could do things better than when I did the job, allowing me the freedom to go away without being overwhelmed by issues and things.
Yeah, and you know, I
Freedom to
was,
travel is more
well,
important almost than the money to travel.
and you know, it's one of the three purposes of a business. We teach members when they first join coaching. One of the purposes of the brokerage business is to provide you, the owner, with the money and time to be able to live the lifestyle that you desire, right? And that's why you own a business, and you're a shining example of that.
Yeah. If you're a
Uh,
broker watching this, think, what is it you want in your next 5 years of your journey? What lifestyle financially? And a lot of brokers, they're making money from deals and stuff, but it's
mhm.
not a business. It's like
Yeah,
going from one problem, one transaction. And how do you get to that?
yeah. I call it the hamster wheel, Larry. We just get on the hamster wheel and we start running.
Yeah.
Let me ask this: what's the biggest failure that you've ever had that taught you a lesson?
My biggest failure I ever got,
That taught you a lesson that you learned from.
2008 put me under.
Mhm.
Um, I thought I was doing great. You know what? I was kind of listening to what the market says. Oh, you could buy a house with, great credit and not income, and, the chicken egg kind of thing. And I was
Mhm.
doing development. It was going great. And I bought a house I couldn't afford yet. Um, I didn't really have the fundamentals down. And then the market switched and the bank turned into my vicious enemy. Even though
Mhm.
I could still pay them, they loved the idea of taking my development back because I couldn't refinance and broke the terms of the loan. And I was just like, ain't ever going to happen again. And I'm going to have structure to it and really understand you know, what's most important and not get ahead of my skis and learn
Yeah,
the hard way.
that's excellent. That you learned from that. So many people went through that and don't, and it's a great. I can identify totally. I had a similar lesson at a different time period. Um,
I remember I remember one day sitting there going, I got 4 kids. I go, how am I going to make the mortgage payment next
mhm.
month? That and then a deal happened that I had laid the foundations 4 months before, and that was my low. I literally remember the low point of my life
Mhm.
financially.
Yeah,
And honestly, I take a great deal of pride being able to bounce back from that. And it wasn't easy, and it was intentional, and take it to the next level. And I've learned a lot from that.
well,
So
and the real truth of that, Larry, is not only have you learned a lot, but you learned a lot you can teach others so they don't have to go through the same pain, right?
yeah, I like to think when I'm doing coaching is, I'm here to tell you the big mistakes I made and don't do this, don't do
Yeah.
that. Here's how other people approach it. And let me add some clarity in ways you don't have because I see other people doing this and experienced it.
One last question, and then I'm going to go to the lightning round. What's the biggest leadership lesson you ever learned?
The biggest leadership lesson I learned is, I think it's important as a leader to understand that you can't be the one everybody goes to about everything. It's about creating a team around you that sustains the entire organization.
Yeah.
That it it's about what you built and having everybody follow the same path. I know if one of my agents has a question at my office, for example, and talks to anybody, they're going to get a very similar answer no matter who they ask, because that has happened intentionally in the way we approach problems. These things aren't by accident.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's great, great wisdom. All right, here's what we're going to do, Larry. I've got five or six questions I like to ask in the lightning round. Tell me in terms of books, what book should we be reading right now?
Oh, I love the Story Brand book. So I'm a huge fan of the Story Brand. I think that's the name of it exactly. So,
Yeah. Story
um,
Brand by Donald Miller.
yeah, learned a lot from that. I had a lot of thoughts like that, but it synthesized it in a way that made so much sense to me. The
Yeah.
idea of really just aligning, approach everything like a story. In recruiting, being invited into their story and realize who's the hero and who's the guide. It's really changes things immensely.
What what do you like to do in your spare time? I know we talked about travel, but like if you had 2 weeks off, tell me what do you and Amy love to do? And tell us a bit
Well,
about
as I am right now, I'm at my cottage up here at Lake Erie doing a workcation for a month. Uh, and in the morning, I'll be playing pickleball or doing CrossFit and still like to race sailboats. So those are the things and walk the dog. So those are my
sorry.
activities.
I forgot to mention that you're a killer pickleball player as well. You're like the most sought after guy in the HOA, I heard.
About most, but I'm good. But yes, it depends which crowd I'm with. So yes.
That's great. One last thing I would ask, Larry, is what parting piece of advice do you have for members or for brokers as a whole?
What parting advice? I think really be in line with what your goals and visions are. I still a big believer one needs a guide to get there, and it's difficult to do on your own. And learn to just think about things in a strategic way, not
Good.
just because I have to, I've done that kind of thing, but really, what is it you're trying to accomplish? And if you have that in mind and start dissecting all the different ways to get there, and with one thing in mind is I'm not going to go in debt, I'm not going to spend money I don't have. And then you create these limitations you have to live within, you will find an answer that works. And don't start with, well, I've always done, have to, everybody expects.
Excellent advice, Larry. You've heard it here from Larry Schottenstein. Larry, I want to thank you. You've shared such wisdom today. And you know what's really cool about your wisdom, Larry, is it's what you've done and what you're helping other people do. It's so powerful. So thanks for being our guest today.
Pleasure. And I thank you so much for allowing me to really get my lifestyle and vision of what I could deliver to other brokers an opportunity to thrive. So thank you.
My pleasure too, Larry. You've been listening to The Profitable Broker, where we interview people each episode who are really moving the needle in the real estate brokerage industry. If today's episode resonated with you, hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss what's coming next. More stories, more lessons, and the unfiltered side of what it really takes to succeed in the market. I'm Wayne Einhorn, and this is The Profitable Broker. Real conversations about what it takes to run a successful brokerage. And we're just getting started. Let's go. This is The Profitable Broker.